Welcome back, everybody. Today's video, I am going to go over the cons of living with the Wilson Audio Alexandria XLF. In case you have not seen part 1, please look at the video description below. But for now, let's get going and talk about the cons of living with this speaker. As we all know, there is no such thing as a perfect product. This speaker, being the most expensive speaker that I've ever owned, also comes with cons. So, I'm going to give you 5 cons of the Wilson Audio Alexandria XLF. Number 1, complexity. On my last video, I mentioned that this speaker has flexibility. So many adjustments, right? So many things you could do with it. The speaker allows you to literally be as close as 8 feet, I believe. Such a tall speaker, yet you could be as close as 8 feet in order to get maximum performance from the speaker. Now, what allows you to do that is basically all the adjustments here. All the adjustments that you have on the back of the speaker. As you can see right now, this is everything you need to tweak behind the speaker in order to align it, in order to make it work with your listening chair. Now, that to me is also one of the things that makes it complex. A lot of people, a lot of dealers actually, and even Wilson Audio recommends that you let your dealer do all the work, all the adjustments, and definitely give you the best performance out of the loudspeaker. And I totally agree with them. Now, of course, I have learned on my own. I try to learn everything by myself because I believe that I'm the one living with the speaker, and nobody knows the speaker better than the person who lives with it. For me, okay, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I have loved the flexibility, but I've also hated the flexibility because that makes the speaker that much more complicated. To me, just assembling the unit, all the parts that go together, knowing how to put together everything from point A to point B, knowing what to look for, what to listen for when you port the speaker on the front or you port on the back, knowing the movement of the speaker, how far from the walls, how far from the rear wall. In my case, guys, the rear wall is approximately, from the rear of the speaker, we're looking at probably 6 feet. Okay, so the speakers are very far out into the room. It takes a lot of work to make the speaker really come into its own. Okay, so the complexity of all these modules, in my opinion, make it even harder because, for instance, there were times in which I sat on that chair and I'm approximately 10 feet away from the speaker, right? And there were times in which I would be like, okay, 3 days listening to it. What if I change the setting on this upper driver and then the lower driver and see how I like it? Maybe I like the sound a little better. Maybe if I set it and tell the speaker I'm actually not 10 feet away, I'm actually 11 feet away. Maybe I like the sound at 11 feet away better, even though my chair is sitting at 10 feet. There were so many different scenarios that passed through my head because of the available adjustments. There were times in which I almost picked up the phone and called Wilson Audio in order to ask or buy resistors to see if I can boost up the mid-range or lower the high frequency and whatnot, you name it. So that in itself makes you feel overwhelmed, for lack of a better word. So yes, the complexity of the speaker and of course all the flexibility of it makes you chase your tail a lot. If you do not know what you're doing, in my opinion, it is important that you connect with your dealer and let your dealer handle all of that, okay? I simply didn't do that because I want to learn. And yes, it's a painful exercise. but that's what I like. The next con should be no surprise, and that is the size. This thing is huge, guys. I mean, it is like 73 inches tall. It's about 19 inches wide, and it's about 30 inches deep. On top of that, it weighs over 700 pounds. So the great thing about this speaker, though, is that it doesn't come assembled. Okay, so it's not like it comes inside of two crates. It comes in different crates, a total of 7 crates actually. So this bottom, the base module, is completely separate from the 3 modules that you see here. Okay, and then these wings are completely detached from the module as well. So you get a total of 7 crates. It makes it easier to bring the speaker into the room. But once you put it together and you see it in person, guys, it is just impressive. It's crazy big. It's difficult, guys. Look, I have carpet on the right now, and even on casters, guys, I mean, I almost blew out my knee a few times because on casters, it was hard for me to pull it, like just shift it. It was just like I was sweating, put it that way. I mean, and I'm a big guy again. It is such a difficult speaker to move around, even on wheels. I can't stress it enough. It is a hard speaker to position. The size makes it damn near impossible to do it by yourself. Of course, I do basically 90% of the legwork in my room by myself without anybody's help, including with this speaker. A lot of times my carpet would shift around because when I push the speaker on casters, you can see the carpet just crawl with the speaker. It was just crazy, so it made me very frustrated at times. But I knew what I was signing up for before I bought it. I knew the weight, I knew the dimensions, I knew exactly the speaker I was dealing with, so I had to suck it up. But yes, the size is definitely one of the cons of the speaker. Number 3. Number 3 is very subjective. It's up to you guys. It's your own personal taste, and that has to do with the looks of the speaker. A lot of people do not like the look of the speaker. They are always very vocal about the fact that the speaker, uses this material around the drivers, and that you have to remove the grills to get maximum performance, which takes away some of the, you could say, prettiness that the speaker has when it has its grills put on, right? A lot of women, and I have to be vocal about this, do not like the look of the speaker. Do not like the way it looks. Again, very subjective, guys. But for the most part, I think it is not the best looking speaker that I have had here. I still believe the best looking speaker I have had here, it's either the Magical M6 or probably the Focal Stella. I think those two are probably my best looking speakers. I have asked my wife, I've asked multiple women who have been to my home, guests, what they thought about the look. They're impressed by the size of the speaker, never by the aesthetics. So, I mean, if you're looking to make a fashion statement with this speaker, you're probably not going to be successful at it. If I'm being honest with you, probably not. Okay, this is a speaker for a dedicated space where aesthetics are not 100% what you care about. I don't think personally it's an ugly speaker. I don't find it ugly. I've gotten used to the looks. Number 4. This con has to do with something that I have not spoken about. I don't think I've said this to anybody. And it will be probably a shock to some of you. But because I have owned both of them, I am now in a position to say the following. You guys know I have owned the Wilson Audio Alex, right? I've had it here for a few months, lived with it, loved it, great speaker. But I have to be honest. Guys, I just feel the mid-range on the Alex is better. The mids of the Alex, in my opinion, are just pure. They sound more liquid. This does not mean that this sucks by any means, okay? So don't go around spreading rumors that I said this speaker doesn't have great mid-range. That's not what I'm saying. Not to mention, most of you would never imagine that that's the case. Unless you've owned this level of speaker, you would never know, okay? It's still a mind-blowing mid-range. I feel the Alex mid-range never got out of hand, never got out of control. It always stayed composed, like within its boundaries, and I feel that sometimes this mid-range driver gets out of its boundaries a little too much. Does that make sense? And I have tried, guys. You're seeing it. Mephisto, I got a sim audio over there. You've seen my cables behind, transparent, Shonyata. It's not because I haven't had the right components surrounding the speaker. I've had plenty of that. And I can tell you, the tendency of this mid-range driver, in my opinion, is to jump at you a little too much at times, depending on the volume levels, of course. And I like to listen loud, I gotta be honest, okay? But if you crank it up a bit too much, I do find that the mids get just a little too much for me. But again, you have adjustments on the back, so you can always compensate the resistors. You can always take that back, okay? Goes back to the same conversation. One of the greatest things about this is the flexibility. I just didn't want to mess with the adjustments on the back. I wanted to leave the speaker the way it came from the factory. So once again, it should be no surprise, I do believe the Alex has better mid-range, better overall feeling when it comes to vocals. That's just what I found. And then the last one, guys, should be no surprise. As efficient as this speaker is at 93 decibels, guys, you can make this speaker sound loud, true, very true, with a few watts. But loudness is not the same as sheer power, energy, huge soundstage, dynamics, the effortless presentation that this speaker is capable of only comes to life and alive with amazing amplifiers, amazing power, Boulder, Mephistos. I hear some people are using the new Robert Coda amplifiers. This is the level of amplification that this speaker needs. This is how I feel. I feel as if with okay wattage, the speaker sounds loud, but it's very one-directional. It's almost as if it was a panel, a magnepan. It comes at you, okay? The rear-mounted tweeter seems like it's turned off, like it's not even operating when you have low wattage amplification. Once you put serious amplifiers, the speaker swells up, out. This begins to come out to the ceiling. It just completely vanishes, okay? Completely disappears. It doesn't feel like the speaker is here. And to me, that has to do primarily with amplification. If you do not put the proper amplification in this speaker, you are going to fail miserably. Yes, it will play loud. If what you want is loudness, you can get away with a 100 watt per channel amplifier, but loudness will never open up this speaker the way it can. These Mephistos right here completely transformed the speaker for me. It made the speaker just walk out the room. Completely walk out the room. So when you're buying this level of speaker, remember the amplifier is key. And by the way, I'm going to say this. I remember saying that ideally, when you have a budget, 50% of the budget should be allocated to your speaker, and then the other 50 or 40, depending on how you look at it, should be allocated to the rest of your electronics, right? The amplifier, preamplifier, your DAC, your music server, your cabling, right? I gotta tell you something, guys. I'm starting to rethink that. This speaker and the Magical M6 have completely changed that proportion, that formula, if you will, for me. There is no way, guys. And I also think it's because electronics, in my opinion, are getting too expensive, guys. Now every cable, you have now all kinds of amplifiers going north of $100,000. It's ridiculous. 120, 150, 200, 250. So basically, if I want this speaker to sing, I'm going to have to buy amplifiers of 100, 150, $200,000, right? So that changes the entire formula. And I feel that that is starting to shift that perception, that narrative, that 50 to 60% of your budget should be put into your speakers. Now I am going to tell you, I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe in it. I believe that, unfortunately, you buy the speakers you want, and you hopefully buy the best amplification and preamplification you can afford. Because in my opinion, there is a lot of disparity when it comes to pricing right now. You got cables sometimes that are retailing far more than speakers. So there is not even that proportion when it comes to electronics and speakers. Now, if one said, look, all speakers, 95% of the speakers out there are more expensive than preamplifiers and amplifiers, then we can work with that formula. But the reality is, now you find cable systems like Nordo's Odin 2 that are worth far more than speakers, amps, and preamps. So it's no longer like a hierarchy of pricing where you say all speakers are always more expensive than cables, or all preamplifiers are more expensive than, I don't know, an amplifier stand. Now you get amplifier stands that are 20 grand, 30 grand. So it's like the prices are all over the place for every component. So it's impossible now to have a formula that works, that you can actually put into effect and say, I have 100 grand to spend. I'm going to spend 65 on the speakers, or 60, and the 40,000 extra into the electronics. You can't even bank that that's going to work. But you might be better off buying a speaker that is 30 grand and putting $70,000 worth of electronics. You might get better results that way, because the prices are just crazy, guys. Everything is ridiculously expensive now. And I feel that with this speaker at 200 grand, you're going to need $120,000 monos. You're going to need $70,000 preamplifier, $30,000, $40,000 music server, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 worth of cables. Impossible. There's no way you can work with that formula. That doesn't work anymore. That, to me, has gone out the window. Ever since this price increase has been going through the roof, to me, all that conversation got thrown out the window. Completely. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys have enjoyed my video, and that you hopefully learned something about this monster of a speaker and what it takes to own something of this caliber, of this magnitude. Once again, the Magic OM6 and the Wilson Audio XLF remain, in my opinion, two of the best speakers that I have had the pleasure of owning. And it's just a matter of you guys now deciding what really suits you. That's all I got for now. Thank you so much for your love, support. Until the next one. Bye.